this is your Daily 5 for Monday, November 17th, 2025. I somewhat went back and forth on even doing this 5 because to some degree it is very similar to a 5 I did earlier in the year back in March. That one I believe was titled The Theater is... parentheses not, parentheses magical, and it was about statements made at the Oscars by a filmmaker that, you have to go to the theater, and I had done something similar back in 2022 or 3. Again, this same idea that movies cannot survive if there are not movie theaters, and there's a clip that's been circulating around lately that I saw again pop up that was claiming that cinema is under attack, and these comments have been made more than once by a small pool of people who consider themselves to be devoted lovers of cinema and its craft. And I sit there and think, boy, oh boy, if this is not the most boneheaded argument I keep hearing people make, that if anything is counterproductive to the very thing they claim to love and celebrate. You may remember these same arguments came around when digital filmmaking started, that people said, oh no, film will be destroyed by the presence of digital filmmakers. They will not appreciate the celluloid experience. It's just not the same. Statements made by people who think that their method of enjoying something or producing something is the only method that can possibly exist. And it is tremendously short-sighted and honestly offensive to the very thing, again, that they say they adore so much. The reality is, cinema is not something that's tied to a medium. It's not tied to a format. It's not tied to a viewing experience. This is similar to how some people really can't watch movies for more than a couple hours. There are people who just don't have a tolerance for films that are over 2 hours. Now, I'm not one of those people. I obviously can watch very long movies where very little happens, but it doesn't mean that I think that those people aren't watching movies. They aren't destroying cinema. They have not annihilated the ability for filmmakers to make long films. It still happens all the time. This is something that I just don't understand the root of because it limits what creativity is. These people who seem to, at least at face value, celebrate creativity and want to preserve a creative way of doing things are in fact trying to contain and limit what creativity is. Cinema is not something that has to be experienced in a theater, and it's also not under attack. Guillermo del Toro just released a magnificent film made for a streaming service. Now, I know it does have some theatrical run, but let's be honest, it really didn't need one. It didn't matter. I guess I saw something about how box office again has had a terrible last couple of 3-4 months or whatever, which is no surprise because many people have a competent to excellent home theater experience that they can enjoy films in. That does not require a theater. Now, are there some things that probably work better? Well, actually, I'll give you an example. My wife and I watched the Rocky Horror Picture Show at home and had a great time watching it. 2 of us in our house watching a movie on a screen. And then my wife went to one of these experiences for the 50th anniversary. She went with a friend of hers. They got dressed up and they had a great time in a theater with other people who were dressed up and singing and yelling at the screen and all that stuff. That's great. She didn't enjoy the film in any less capacity by being home or there. It was just a different viewing experience. But she's watched that movie in our home probably since we've been married 20 times, I would guess, and that may be an underestimation. And at no point did she walk out and go, oh, not as good as in the theater. No, she never said that. She still loves the movie. So again, it just drives me up a wall because it constructs this artifice that means that movies can only work in a certain way. Because if they think that they're thinking other things, that it should only be shot on film in some cases, or a true cinematic experience cannot be done on a budget under X number of dollars, or whatever nonsense they'll come up with. Again, this is just a way of telling people how they should experience something, how they should enjoy something. And that is, to me, completely against anything that involves creativity of any kind, which, as it turns out, cinema being one of those things. So, again, just to reinforce this, in case anybody saw this and thought, I wonder if there's anything to it. Cinema is not under attack. You do not have to go to a theater to enjoy a movie. Enjoy your entertainments in whatever way makes sense to you. And anything beyond that is nonsense, and you should disregard it. Later.